Read the text very carefully. All the important parts are marked in blue. At the end, there will be a brief summary and analysis of the text.
Okay, so last time we stopped at the point where Mrs. Oakentubb confusedly was talking to with this man that the chance meeting, the casual meetings are nothing in the life of anyone because the people meet and then they leave. But this man has two meetings, chance meetings in his life before, and it has changed his life. Now he says, he continues from that conversation which stopped yesterday. He intensely, sometimes one of these brief casual meetings may alter your life. She, not in my experience. He, I wouldn't be too sure. You never know what's around the corner. I can tell you of two these half-minute meetings which have had the most profound effect on my life. But for them, everything would have been absolutely different. She, can you really know that? Perhaps some other event? I'll tell you one of them. It was in a place where you never been to. It was in Korea in June 1953. She makes to utter some sympathetic remark, but he talks her down. I've been wounded, and they strapped me on stretcher and dumped me by roadside to wait for an ambulance. If I didn't die first, I wanted to die anyway. I had nothing to live for. The pain was pretty bad. I guess I fainted. When I came to there was a Korean girl bending over me. She was about 14, not pretty of course, but friendly brown eyes and long black plaits hanging in front of her shoulder. Now, interestingly, this man is going to tell her about the second incident which happened in his life. One account which happened earlier, he is going to tell it afterwards. But right now, he is going to tell her about one of those accounts, the second one which happened with him in Korea. He was terribly injured. He must be some kind of soldier over there. He was injured and he was lying over there on a stretcher, almost near to death situation. At that particular time, a young girl happens to be near him. And then when he looked at her, he recalled someone at that particular time. He's going to let her know after that. But he described that Korean girl bending over him that she was near to 14 years of age, a normal girl, not so much pretty. At 14, nobody is that pretty, a normal appearance, but friendly brown eyes and long plaits hanging in front of her shoulders. So here he is explaining his experience, started to explain his experience. Okay, so this man talks about the Korean girl that she was bending over him when he was totally injured. So she didn't say anything, she just smiled. So he says that this girl didn't say anything to him. She just smiled and I smiled back. Some busybodies chased her away. Then busybody means the people over there asked the girl to move over. Then the ambulance came up and I was jolted for miles to a hospital. Jolted means to move up and down. It is like when a car is moving on a bumpy road, it jolts. The pain was much worse, but I could bear it now. I didn't want to die anymore. I wanted to live, and I knew I should live. I had a purpose. It was just for a moment or two that she and I met. We shall never meet again, but that one meeting gave me the strength and the courage to live. He stops almost overcome. Now this whole speech is given with lot of emotion. काफी जज्बाती हो चुके थे, and then he was letting her know that this one chance meeting actually changed his mind for life. Now, she says very gently, as in to, calm this man down. Yes, I can understand that. Her smile made you realize that there was still some goodness in life. He brokenly. It made me realize what my daughter would have been like if she had lived. This is the point where this man decided that he should be taking revenge of the of the murder of his wife and daughter. This was the point because that girl reminded him of his daughter. Oh, I'm sorry, pulling himself together. It gave me a purpose in life. What purpose? Revenge. This is the motive of the men, to take the revenge. And it is very reasonable. When one person has faced a loss in the life, then at certain point in life, when he is recalled, then that in that circumstances that loss is much bigger, and he felt it like that. उसको अपनी लाइफ में जो कमी महसूस हुई वो इतनी ज्यादा थी कि उस वक्त वो जख्मी हालत में भी उसने ये सोचा कि मैं बदला तो लूंगा. Then she continues, that innocent child smile persuaded you to dedicate your life to wickedness and hate. Vengeance is not wickedness. It is not wicked to punish the evildoer. This is his thought regarding Mrs. Oakentubb के एक गलत इंसान को पनिश करना कोई भी बुरा काम नहीं है, और बदला यानी कि जो उनके साथ हुआ उसके रद्द अमल में कोई बदला लेना wickedness नहीं है उसके नजर में. Then she says very gently, vengeance is mine, said the Lord. She is reminding him of the point um of what is written in the Bible, that the vengeance is not for him to take. It is the job of God to take it. But he says, I don't believe in that stuff, not after what happened to my little girl and to my wife. So he is clear in his motive and his intention. He stares at her furiously and then smiles cruelly. Now this is a gesture. ये अगर स्टेज पे प्ले होगा तो वो आपको बहुत ड्रामेटिक लगेगा कि वो बहुत इंटेंशनली उसको देखता है जैसे गुस्से में, और व्हेन ही स्माइल्स क्रूली यानी कि उसकी जो मुस्कुराहट होती है वो भी बहुत मतलबी होती है, बिकॉज ऑफ कोर्स ही इज आउट टू किल हर, टू punish her. So he intentionally did that so that she gets scared. There is a long pause as their eyes meet. Although he is plainly a malevolent man, urged to desperation by violent smile evilly at her. She gets up and strolls across the room. He follows her with his eyes. She takes up a position with her back towards the suitcase, her hands behind her back, fronting him passion. His attitude towards her may still be impersonal. She stares at him fascinated. She is afraid, but it is by no means clear that he has need to be afraid. With an effort, she tears her gaze away, moistened her lips with her tongue, and then, as to look at him again, she repelled. But his will is stronger, and she cannot escape him. He says nothing, but continues shrinking and defying. This is all dramatic scene happening on the stage. कि वो उसको घूरता है, देखता है गुस्से में और furiously यानी strongly, और वो उसकी नजरों से बचने के लिए पीछे हटती है, लेकिन वो उसको ये लग रहा होता है कि वो बहुत थ्रेटनिंग वे में उसको देख रहा है, बड़ी मीनिंगफुल वे में, और उसको कहीं ना कहीं तो समझ में आने लगा होता है इस पॉइंट पे कि इस आदमी के इंटेंशंस अच्छे नहीं है, लेकिन बट शी नीड्स टू कंट्रोल हरसेल्फ सिंस दे स्टिल हैव 10 and 15 minutes left. तो ये इस आदमी का तरीका था कि वो उसको बातों के जरिए और अपने एक्शंस के जरिए थ्रेटनिंग वे में इस तरह से उसको वो मैनिपुलेट करेगा उसके माइंड को कि वो उसको सही तरह से जज कर सके कि मिसेस ऑकिंटब को अपने गलती के बारे में क्या एहसास है, या अभी वो उस पॉइंट पे खुद ही रिवील करती हैं या उसको फिर निकलवाना पड़ेगा उनसे. He moves towards the door, opens it, looks out, and shuts it again. It has been open just long enough to enable them to appreciate that the wind and the rain are as strong as ever. She returns to her seat by the fire. And now this is again a dramatic action that he opens the door and he closes the door, and the wind and the strong uh, rain can be felt, can be heard clearly. He comes back, glancing with the greatest air of casualness at the suitcase, draws her. Okay. When she moves away from the suitcase, it appears that she has tucked the label under the flap so that it is no longer visible. He comes back, glancing with the greatest air of casualness at the suitcase, draws herself up tensely as if expecting physical attack. Now, while he was doing that, वो अपने लगेज के पास जाती हैं और उसमें जो टैग लगा होता है उसको वो छुपाने की कोशिश करती हैं. शी ट्राइज टू हाइड इट, और ये काफी क्लियरली हमें समझ में आता है दैट शी इज ट्राइंग टू हाइड हर नेम ऑन द टैग, ताकि वो उस आदमी को उनकी आइडेंटिटी का पता ना चल सके. इसी वजह से वो उसको छुपाती हैं, समझती हैं कि उस आदमी को पता नहीं चलेगा. लेकिन जब वो वापस पलट के आता है तो बहुत ही कैजुअल लुक उनकी सूटकेस की तरफ देता है और वो ये समझ जाता है कि मिसेस ऑकेंटप अपनी आइडेंटिटी छुपाना चाहती हैं उससे. In a casual tone which belies her attitude, this Mrs. Oakentubb you're going to Stainthorpe to see. You made very curious remark about her. Yes, you don't know her, but you know all about her character. Isn't it? Isn't that rather a rash thing to say? I know all I need to know about her character. That's different if you have only a minor matter of business to discuss. I don't suppose you need to know very much about her character. It's extremely important business for both of us. At this particular point, she is pointing out कि उनके कैरेक्टर के बारे में what you have said is rather rash. आप कैसे जज कर सकते हैं जिससे आप मिले नहीं हैं? But that man has clear motive and he has clear understanding regarding Mrs. Oakentubb. तो वो ये कहती हैं कि एक छोटी सी मुलाकात के लिए किसी के कैरेक्टर के बारे में जानना कोई जरूरी नहीं होता, लेकिन वो कहता है कि मेरे लिए और उनके लिए जरूरी है. एंड वी नो व्हाई, बिकॉज इट इज ऑल लिंक्ड टू दैट पास्ट इंसिडेंट व्हिच हैपेंड इन देयर लाइफ. Still tense, but speaking brightly. My husband's a very successful salesman. He says you can't know too much about the character of a man you are doing really important business with. Men, yes, there are several sorts of men, but there are only two kinds of women. You mean those who are good looking and those who are not? No, I mean those who are good and those are not. So he says that there are only two types of women. एक अच्छी होती हैं और एक बुरी होती हैं. After a pause meditatively, and you are quite sure in which category to place Mrs. Oakentubb? Confronting her. Now look here. You know this woman. You know what she did, don't you? Now Mrs. Oakentubb tried to, ease the conversation by saying कि आपका अंदाजा क्या है कि वो किस कैटेगरी में आती है? Are you so sure? Now at this point this man confronts her totally और वो कहता है look here, आपको पता है कि मिसेस ओकेंटब ने क्या किया था अपने पास्ट में. You know what she did, don't you? So that means कि वो जो न्यूज़पेपर पे आर्टिकल आया था, that must be pointing out Mrs. Oakentubb's crime and the court scene, and that's why her photograph was published in the newspaper. She faintly, I think I know what you mean. Brutally, you know what I mean, or what I mean, all right? She murdered my wife and daughter. She was not convicted to murder. She was not even charged with murder. They call it manslaughter, but you know what I call it? I call it murder. Plain, deliberate, heartless, cruel murder. Now at this time brutally यानी कि काफी जोर गुस्से में और बुरी तरह से वो ये कहता है कि you know what I mean, all right? She murdered my wife and daughter. Now at this point Mrs. Oakentubb got it clearly in his head that this is the man who's standing in front of her. उसकी बीवी और बेटी को उसने मारा था, मर्डर किया था अकॉर्डिंग टू द मैन, लेकिन उसके नजर में तो वो सिर्फ एक एक्सीडेंट होता है और लॉ के नजर में इट इज कॉल्ड मैनस्लॉटर. मैनस्लॉटर और प्लेन मर्डर में सिर्फ इतना सा फर्क है कि मैन स्लॉटर किसी एक ऐसा क्राइम है कि जिसमें एक आदमी ऐसा एक्शन कमिट करता है कि जिससे दूसरे की जान चली जाती है, उसमें उसका इंटेंशन इन्वॉल्व नहीं होता कि मैंने इसको मारना है. इट इज जस्ट लाइक हैपेंड इन एक्शन और एक्सीडेंट, और लेट्स से कोई ऐसा वो काम कर जाता है कि जिसमें बहुत सारे लोगों की जान चली जाती है, या एक या दो की, तो ये मैनस्लॉटर कहलाता है. तो इसमें सजा कम मिलती है. और अगर मर्डर होता, तो मर्डर तो इंटेंशनल होता है, यानी कि आपको पता होता है कि यू आर गोइंग टू किल दिस पर्सन, सो दिस द मर्डर इज प्लान्ड, द मर्डर हैज इंटेंशंस किलिंग द पीपल. सो मर्डर की सजा, एक मर्डरर की सजा ज्यादा बुरी होती है. मैन स्लॉटर में थोड़ी सी सजा कम हो जाती है, और अगर वो एक्सीडेंट डिक्लेयर हो जाए तो उससे उससे भी कम हो जाती है. मैन स्लॉटर वाले में ये भी होता है एक पॉइंट के जिसके एक्शंस के थ्रू की वजह से डेथ हुई भी होती है लोगों की, तो उस जिसने किया होता है उसको इस चीज का एहसास नहीं होता. ही हैज नो वैल्यू ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ, और वो कर जाता है और उसको उस चीज का एहसास नहीं होता. दिस इज typical point. If you look into the dictionaries, you will find a very good definition of manslaughter, and you will be able to understand that what is the difference between the two. But for this man, it is not an accident, it is not a manslaughter, it is called murder. Plain, deliberate, heartless, cruel murder. Now she is totally desperate. It was an accident, not much of an accident. In an accident, there is an element of chance. But in what your precious Judy Oakentubb did, there was no chance about it. It was a million to one she would kill someone. So he is very much clear कि एक accident में तो chance भी होता है बचा लेने का. But what she did is truly something without any chance. इसका मतलब Mrs. Judy Oakentubb knew that two people were standing over there, but she drove her car on the footpath and killed that two innocent people. So according to man, this is murder. See, no, that's not true. Relentless. Relentless means बिल्कुल कोई भी लिहाज किए बगैर वो बोलता है. It is true and you know it. She was driving at 50 miles an hour in a build-up area. She pulled out to overtake a bus on a blind bend, and she saw herself running slap into a lorry coming the other way. She had a choice. She could ram the lorry and kill herself, or she could swear onto the pavement and kill two innocent pedestrians. She didn't hesitate. It was her life or theirs. She mounted the pavement. वो ये कहते हैं कि मिसेस जूडी ऑकेंटब को ने अपने आप को बस से बचाने के लिए एक ब्लाइंड बैंड लिया. ब्लाइंड बैंड यानी कि बगैर देखे गाड़ी एक स्ट्रीट में मोड़ ली, और वहां से सामने से एक लॉरी आ रही थी. लॉरी वॉज कमिंग द अदर वे. शी हैड अ चॉइस. उस वक्त उनके पास चॉइस होती है कि either she could ram the lorry and kill herself, or she could take her car on the pavement and kill two innocent pedestrians over there. She didn't hesitate. वो हिचकिचाई नहीं अपने इरादे में और अपने फैसले में. It was her life or theirs. She mounted the pavement. जब उनकी जिंदगी और दूसरों की जिंदगी की बारी आई, तो उन्होंने बगैर हिचकिचाए अपनी गाड़ी पेवमेंट पर चढ़ा दी और इनोसेंट लोगों की जान ले ली. And she is alive today, and my wife and little girl are dead. Very much moved, covering her face in her hands. Now she is traumatized with all this speech and revelation of this man. वो तो ट्रैप हो गई है इस आदमी के साथ. तो वो ये कहती हैं कि घबरा जाती हैं एक तरह से. I am very sorry. How can I say how sorry? Relentless. And do you know why she was driving so criminally fast? She was drunk. She was not drunk. No, this is interesting that how she takes it. She had been to a cocktail party and she was driving fast for a bet. On one of her rotten set had wagered her £5 she wouldn't drive from Stainsthorpe Cross to the coast in under 15 minutes. You know the road, you know the distance, you know the bends and blind corners and the traffic on that road. You know it can't be done reasonably in much under half an hour. You can't tell me it wasn't deliberate murder. उसके पास ये लॉजिक है, जब उनको सब कुछ पता था कि वो आधे घंटे का सफर है, वो इतनी जल्दी कैसे उसको पूरा कर सकती थी. यू कान टेल मी, आप मुझे ये बता नहीं सकती कि ये डेलिबरेट मर्डर नहीं है. The police didn't call it murder. I call it murder, and so do you. In your heart, you know that it was a murder. What were my wife and child to her? Absolute strangers. यानी कि वो कहते हैं कि मेरे दिल में और आपके दिल में ये कंफर्म है कि इट्स अ मर्डर. एक मेरी बीवी और मेरी बच्चे के लिए उनके दिल में क्या वो थी फीलिंग्स? कुछ भी नहीं. They were absolute strangers. You spoke just now about meeting people once for a woman and never seeing them again. Mrs. Judy Oakentubb met my wife and daughter for one split second and she crushed the life out of them. I said they met, but they had their backs to her. They didn't even see her. यानी कि दो जो लोग खड़े हुए थे उनकी बैक्स थी, यानी कि अगर वो गाड़ी को देखते आते हुए तो शायद वो उधर से हट जाते, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं था. सिर्फ मिसेस जूडी ऑकेंटेब उनको देख सकती थी, पीछे से उनकी पीठ थी उनकी तरफ.
And the man started.
How do you know she saw them? He said at the trial that she didn't see them, but she saw them all right. She had to choose between her life or theirs, and she chose to murder them. This is a repetition. It's a repetition of what he said earlier, and in a dramatized manner, it has to be done on a stage. जब एक बात बार बार रिपीट हो रही होती है तो उसका एक असर हो जाता है एक दूसरे कैरेक्टर के ऊपर और लिसनर्स के ऊपर. तो फिर वो ये दोबारा से वो कहती है कि हाउ डू यू नो शी सॉ देम, आपको कैसे पता कि उसने देखा होगा? वो कहता है कि उसने ट्रायल में तो यही कहा है कि शी डिडंट सी देम बट शी सॉ देम ऑल राइट. उसने देखा है. शी हैड टू चूज बिटवीन हर लाइफ और देयर्स एंड शी चूजेस टू murder them. How can you be sure of that? It must have all happened in a flash. Scornfully, her counsel told her to say she didn't see them. He made a great point out of it. That was why she got away with only 18 months in a jail. 18 months in prison. She served that sentence, didn't she? She hadn't any option. Now, at this point, he says that her counsel, यानी इनके वकीलों ने उनको ये कहा कि आपने कोर्ट में बहुत बड़ा ये चीज को बना के पेश करना है दैट यू हैवंट सीन दोस पीपल, इनोसेंट पीपल ऑन द पेवमेंट, और आपने देखा नहीं था इसलिए आपसे ये गलती हो गई और एक्सीडेंट कमिट हो गया. ही मेड अ ग्रेट पॉइंट आउट ऑफ इट, यानी कि कोर्ट में बहुत बड़ा सीन इस पे उठा और इसकी वजह से इनकी सजा सिर्फ कम होके 18 मंथ पे रह गई, जबकि उन्होंने एक मर्डर ही सा किया था. देख सकती थी वो दो लोगों को. तो वो जितनी भी बातें वो अपनी समझाने की कोशिश कर रही थी उस आदमी को, दिस मैन वाज वेरी मच क्लियर दैट इट इज ऑल प्लान्ड आउट इन द कोर्ट. शी हैज सीन द इनोसेंट पीपल ऑन द पेवमेंट, और वो उसको भी पता था, इनको भी पता था, लेकिन जेल में सजा कम करने के लिए उन्होंने सिर्फ इसको एक एक्सीडेंट का शेप देकर कोर्ट में ट्रायल चलाया और इससे वो 18 मंथ्स की प्रिजन लेकर बाहर आ गई. और उनके मुताबिक तो वो ये कहती हैं कि मैंने तो ये सजा ले, मतलब उन्होंने मिसेस ऑकेंटेब ने 18 मंथ प्रिजन तो काटी है ना, तो शी सर्व दैट सेंटेंस डिडंट शी. तो उस पे वो कहता है कि उनके पास और कोई चॉइस थी इसके अलावा. So this is we are stopping now. We are almost done with the 40 minutes class. We will continue with the last part of the uh, 20 minutes with Oakentubb tomorrow, the part 4.